You know, for 500 years, there's been this one name just echoing through the jungles of South America. It's a whisper of impossible wealth, a legend that literally drove explorers to madness and even death. El Dorado. So today, we're going to peel back the layers of that legend and find out what's really behind the City of Gold. I mean, that's the big one, right? It's the question that's fueled centuries of obsession and, honestly, sent so many people to their doom. Was there ever really a city paved with gold, just hidden away deep in the Amazon? Just think about that for a second. Half a millennium. That's 500 years. We're talking generations of explorers, battling, starving, dying, all of them chasing this one single glittering idea. It's got to be one of the most alluring and deadliest myths in all of history.
But you know, behind that glimmer of gold, there's a much, much darker reality. This beautiful dream was actually a devastating lie. A lie that would end up costing thousands of lives and wiping entire civilizations completely off the map. So let's start at the beginning and figure out what this legend was all about.
All right, so first things first. What exactly was this legend? What was this dream of El Dorado that had such a powerful grip on so many people for so long? Well, the name itself, El Dorado, it's Spanish for the Gilded One. And see, it wasn't just a city. The legend was about an entire kingdom of wealth you can't even imagine. The story said buildings and streets were made of solid gold, and get this, at the heart of it all was a king so incredibly rich that every single morning he'd cover his entire body in gold dust, only to wash it all off in a sacred lake that evening. Now just picture it. You're 16th century Spanish conquistador. You're already flush from conquering the Aztecs and Incas. This doesn't sound like just a story. To you, this sounds like a promise. Okay, but here's the thing about great myths. They almost always start with a little tiny kernel of truth. And this is where we're going to uncover how one local ceremony got twisted and exaggerated into a full-blown, continent-spanning obsession. So the story really kicks off back in 1537. Spanish soldiers had just conquered a tribe in modern-day Colombia, and they started, interrogating their prisoners. And that's when an old man told them a story about a very special ritual performed by the Muisca people. And boom, right here, this is the great misunderstanding in a nutshell. On one side, you have the reality, a sacred ritual of the Muisca people. When they got a new chief, they'd cover his body in gold dust, and he'd wash it off in Lake Guatavita as an offering to the gods. Simple enough, right? But then look at the other side. Look at how that story just exploded in the minds of the gold-hungry conquistadors. A sacred ritual? Nope, that becomes a city of gold. A chief covered in dust for a day? No way. He's an infinitely wealthy king. You can see how this got out of hand fast. So that's the crucial point. This one single misunderstanding kicked off one of the most brutal, one of the deadliest treasure hunts in all of human history. A desperate search for a city that never even existed. And things went wrong fast. The very first major expedition, back in 1537, led by a guy named Gonzalo Jimenez de Quesada, it was a complete catastrophe. He marched 900 men into the jungle. Only 200 came back. That's 700 men gone. They were up against venomous rivers, hostile tribes, starvation, all of it for a city that just wasn't there. Now, you think that would have been a pretty clear warning, right? But the obsession, it just grew stronger. Just a few years later, in 1541, Gonzalo Pizarro led 4,000 men into the Amazon, and the cost was just staggering. Almost every single one of them died. 3,920 lives lost. The horrors they went through are hard to even imagine. They were so desperate they ate their horses, then their dogs, and eventually even their fallen comrades. And this madness, it wasn't just limited to the Spanish. The legend of El Dorado went viral across Europe. It became this continent-wide obsession. I mean, even the famous English explorer Sir Walter Raleigh, a favorite of the Queen, he was completely consumed by it. He launched 2 separate expeditions. He was so convinced it was real that he wrote a book claiming he'd actually seen mountains of gold with his own eyes. Of course, both of his quests ended in total failure. Yeah, this timeline really puts the sheer scale of this obsession into perspective. You see, it starts with Quesada way back in 1537, then it just keeps going with Pizarro and Raleigh. But the search didn't stop there. It went on and on, all the way into the 20th century. Think about that. As late as 1925, the famous explorer Percy Fawcett vanished while searching for his own version of El Dorado, which he called the Lost City of Z. So for centuries, the search yielded pretty much nothing but death and misery. The jungle, it kept its secrets locked away tight. But then, fast forward to the 21st century, and a new piece of technology would finally let us peek underneath that dense canopy.
And the absolute game changer was a technology called LiDAR. Now, what LiDAR does, basically, is it lets scientists fly a plane over the thickest parts of the Amazon and shoot lasers down to map the ground. It's incredible. For the very first time, they could digitally remove all the trees and see exactly what secrets the jungle had been hiding for all those centuries.
And what they found was absolutely stunning. LiDAR revealed what centuries of explorers had missed completely: hundreds of ancient cities just hidden in plain sight. They found complex road networks, pyramids, huge structures. It was proof that millions of people once lived in these really sophisticated societies right there in the Amazon. It was an incredible discovery. But there was just one little thing missing. For all the amazing cities they found, there was almost no gold. The legend of El Dorado, it was a ghost.
So, okay, if there was no golden city, then what's the ultimate lesson here? What's the real takeaway from this 500-year saga of hope and, well, mostly destruction?
Well, the search for a city that didn't exist had devastating, very real-world consequences. We're talking about entire indigenous civilizations just annihilated, wiped out by the violence and disease the Europeans brought with them. Millions of lives were lost, countless languages, cultures, entire histories erased forever. And on top of all that, this relentless pursuit of treasure caused lasting damage to the Amazon ecosystem itself.
And that really brings us to the most powerful takeaway of all. The real treasure was never the gold. It was never about that. The real treasure was the jungle itself, the vibrant cultures, the unique knowledge, the incredible biodiversity, and the people who called it home. All of it was destroyed in the hunt for something that wasn't even real. Ultimately, the story of El Dorado is a cautionary tale, right? It's about how our desperate quest for treasure can lead us to destroy the things that are actually truly valuable. It makes you wonder, maybe the greatest lesson from the lost city of gold is that some mysteries, maybe they don't need to be solved, especially when the cost of looking is just so devastatingly high.